ho yo ai ho yo ai ho yo ho.
Osiam, Nostella Josiam, welcome and thank you for being here today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Isabella James, and we're here with Children of the Setting Sun, and we're just going to give some brief introductions with everybody, and yeah.
Thank you, Isabella. My name is Solana Booth, and my mother is Nooksack and Mohawk of the Chief Dan George family and Chief Joe Ortiz of Bay Quint. My dad is Simpsian from Metlakatla, Alaska. My clans are White Owl, House of the Wolf. My dad is Raven. I'm here at Canoe Journey because I have my own canoe named Nagus Nulak Suaida, which means Mother's Heart of the Ocean. My nonprofit is called Advocates of Sacred, and I'm all about healing historical trauma, generational trauma, pregnant people, birth outcomes, breastfeeding, first foods, the neurobiopsychosocial emotional relationship that we have with ourselves and our community and its impacts. 7 of my children were in my canoe for most of the way. It got really rough, so I'm really happy to be here, sitting with you all, safe, and my children are good, and we're fed, so it's good to meet everyone.
Osio. My name is Hester Dillon. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and it's really an honor to be here at Canoe Journey. It's been a beautiful afternoon, and just so happy to be welcomed here by Children of the Setting Sun and the Lummi Nation. I'm a program officer at NOVO Foundation for our Indigenous Communities Initiative, and I've been at NOVO a little over 4 years and working on distributing grants for our initiative. And in that role, it's just humbling to see all the work that is happening across the geography we support that is what's currently North America. And we do a little bit of international grant making beyond those boundaries, but the majority of our work is within the United States, and just incredible to see the resilience of our communities, particularly led by our women, around language, healing, coming of age, birth practices, land rights, and food sovereignty, just to name a few. Wado.
Bonjour. Wasana Nangol Indigenakaz, Makwa Indodem, Kawababagani Kagandonjaba. My name in English is Victoria Sweet. My Ojibwe name, I was named after a star closest to the moon when it's dancing and shining. I am from the Bear Clan, and my family is from the White Earth Reservation in Minnesota. When I speak on things like this, on culture and tradition and sovereignty, I like to begin by speaking in my language as much as I can and acknowledging my ancestors. I also work at the NOVO Foundation as a program officer in the Indigenous Communities Initiative, and much of the path that led me to this position that I'm holding right now was influenced by the struggle that our community and many other communities have faced around violence against women issues, against the child abuse and neglect that we've seen in our communities, which all goes back to issues with the trauma and the removals and the experiences that we've had trying to heal ourselves from the impact of colonialism. And being here, being in this place where so many communities are coming together to honor old traditions and to celebrate the new songs and the new things that are being done is incredibly meaningful to me on a personal level. And having an opportunity to be able to support some of the work and learn more about the work that's being done is only going to improve my ability to advocate on behalf of Indigenous communities in any part of my life. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Miigwech.
Waktan, H. Sundabain Carmenza. Soy de la familia indígena Kamsa,
I'm indigenous from the family Kamsa,
una de las puertas de entrada a la Amazonía colombiana.
which is one of the entryways for the Colombian Amazon.
Me siento muy honrada de estar aquí. Trabajo como defensora de los derechos humanos y ambientales por vocación natural.
I am very honored to be here today, and I've been working for human and environmental rights for a really long time due to my vocation.
Para nosotros, la tierra le llamamos Batsana Mamá, Madre Tierra.
We call the land Mother Earth. Y
Todo lo que existe en ella son nuestros hermanos.
and everything that exists there is our relatives.
Nosotros, los humanos, somos la voz de la Madre Tierra.
Us as humans, we are the voice of Mother Earth.
Y estamos llamados a comprender el lenguaje de la Madre Tierra en el canto de los pájaros, en los animales, en los ríos,
And it is our call to understand the language of the animals, of the singing of the birds and the rivers.
en el viento, en todo lo que podemos ver, que es la grandeza de la creación del Espíritu Creador de vida.
And the wind and everything that we can see are the grandiosity of the spirit of the creator of life.
Para nosotros, toda la creación es sagrada
For us, all creation is sacred,
y nosotros solamente somos hijos de la Madre Tierra que vamos de paso por un momento.
and we are only sons and daughters of the Mother Earth, which are passing through here for only a moment. My name is Aline Prata. I am a graduate student at Western Washington University. I'm originally from Brazil. I did not ask permission to be here, but I'm lending my efforts in solidarity in my lifetime and struggle with people against borders and for a transnational approach to justice.
So proud of the Lummi recognize missing and murdered Indigenous women. What are your thoughts on missing Indigenous women in general?
My thoughts on the missing and
And violence against
murdered
women.
Indigenous women, men, transgender violence against people is that just like our sister said from Ojibwe, that it all transcends from colonialism. And I know that the roots of these acts of violence, the roots of these acts of objectification and sexualization and not seeing people's human side has to do with generational trauma and perpetuating that violence. I feel like it comes down to not being obedient or disciplined to our own truth, because when trauma happens, we get false knowings, and we get really good at employing and occupying those false knowings, such as the first attachment is with mom in the womb. However, if you're growing in utero and you're not wanted, you can feel that. And when you're born, you have two questions. Like Gabor says, you have two questions. Do I belong here? Do I deserve to be here? Or can I receive love? Or can I give love? Well, as you're developing, those are already being answered, and the answer is no. However, when you're born, there's that opportunity again. And if, again, the answer is no, your knowings are you can't trust. It's inauthentic. And from that false knowing comes an opportunity for people to exploit you, an opportunity for people to groom you into being trafficked, or an opportunity for you to partake in drugs to cope because you're in so much pain from utero. And in utero is, again, epigenetics, is that traumatic cycle. So I know that in studying epigenetics and perinatal, prenatal psychology, birth outcomes, having culture and ceremony in our way is amazing and well. Knowing our creation stories is amazing and well. And I know I'm talking in circles, but I'll loop it back around. However, again, it comes down to, if your false knowings are you can't trust, if your false knowings are you don't belong here, you don't deserve love, then you're not allowed, or you're not enabling yourself to integrate those creation stories. You're unable to heal or reconcile those first traumas. Because I know that as a first people, we're carrying traumas that didn't only happen to me, right? There's generations of these being missing and murdered. There's generations of babies being taken, and there's generations of the walks and not having our ability to carry a drum and those things. So when a trauma does happen, like when a sister goes missing, or like my daughter was trafficked when she was 16. So she was a federal victim. And at that time, there was no services. There was no, supports like that. So I really had to work hard to find resources for her. And and learned right away what her needs are going to be. And learned right away that for people to recover from generational trauma, including a trauma that's happening right now, they have that choice, for recovery, for reconciliation. So for me, I have zero tolerance for objectifying people, zero tolerance for sexualizing people, little or big, old or young, zero tolerance. And violence, same thing. My family, I teach about safety, and that's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental safety, and it's my job and it's my role, and I'm so humbled to be in that position with my grandbabies, with my children, with my Canoe family, to provide those experiences of what does safety look like. And when somebody's not being safe in any of those 4 ways, how can I show them? Like, this is my chance, And it's about education and being able to integrate. Because I feel like if everyone had all the education, all the knowledge that it feels like we're going to talk about here, everyone would be amazingly well and happy and healthy and wealthy in all the ways they want to be. It's not just the information they need practical ways to integrate it. And so then that brings me back around to my mission of Advocates of Sacred, is to cultivate, champion, and integrate Indigenous healing modalities. So there is practical ways that I like to use to help families of violence to prevent or to help heal and reconcile. So being a First People, I've had opportunities to do that. I've been able to reconcile and heal myself, my womb, my 8th direction, my 9th direction, through the false knowings of being objectified, exploited, and that kind of thing, so that I can lead my family the best way, not just better than. So I have really strong feelings about that, because it was in my house, not my house per se, but my home like that. So
I agree that violence against women, and violence against any being, is unacceptable. The you know, what happens in our indigenous communities is often described as an epidemic. And I don't believe that it's an epidemic. I believe that it's a product of bad behavior and bad actors resulting from colonialism and settler colonialism, patriarchy, capitalism, and Christianity. You know, those of us here and those who will watch this are aware that, you know, people are not just missing and murdered, but they're also unaccounted for. And that's, in my view, just it's a continued erasure of our relatives. And that too is unacceptable. I think the work to bring attention to our missing and murdered relatives is incredibly important, and it seems that work is really, it's happening at a community level, and it's happening across regions and nations, and I think that regional and national work is important to bring visibility to those outside our communities who may just be unaware that it's taking place, or aware but not taking action to help improve and eradicate those circumstances. And those things may or may not take place. And so when I think about where solutions lie, I really think that the solutions lie in our communities. They lie in our languages and in our traditions. They lie in our ability to help raise and support our relatives to be healthy and strong in their identities so that they are not as vulnerable to people who would harm or exploit them. And I feel incredibly encouraged by just the resurgence of our languages and our songs and our traditions, because that gives me hope that that fewer people will be vulnerable, and with time, violence will really will be unacceptable.
When people came over to the Americas and they found a whole group of people already living here, I think it helped them justify taking the lands. It helped them justify coming in and riding over entire cultures and communities and nations that were already existing. If you could create a false story that the people there weren't really people like you, that they were less than, that they were savage, that they were in some way a lower being than you were, then suddenly everyone felt just a little bit better, a little bit superior. It made it easier for them to come in and do all these terrible things that otherwise they could never admit to themselves that they were doing. If you read through the historical records, that's exactly what happened. Everyone was writing in their journals and sending back these tales to Europe of these natives, these savages, and mixed with these tales of savagery were these tales of the women. And the tales of the women were all hypersexualized tales of women who were lascivious and who were there for sexual pleasure. That dialogue, that false story that came from the very instant of contact with indigenous communities in the Americas was the underpinning of everything that has come forward in the relationship between indigenous peoples and those who settled on this continent. And I think it has impacted how the public in general has looked at women of color, who gets to be a victim and who is not a victim. When you look at a child of color, how many of them are seen as innocents versus a child with lighter colored skin. We see it in the media coverage. We see it in the way that our system treats women and girls of color. And I think that by itself has had an incredible impact on how easy it is for people to abuse and harm indigenous women and girls, and eventually just indigenous communities and families in general. And I think it also has had a huge impact on us ourselves. as Indigenous women, how we viewed ourselves, whether we were more vulnerable to certain types of exploitation, what kind of healing that we needed. It's a type of healing that no one really talked about if you didn't understand it. And sometimes we didn't understand it ourselves. When I started hearing strong discourse on missing and murdered Indigenous women, it was when our Canadian relatives started really standing up and saying, we want this. And my daughter and my cousin and I beaded vamps for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women art project that was going around Canada. And our Indigenous relatives up there started saying, what are the US numbers? And we looked at them and we said, we don't even know. You know that yours is underreported, but in the US, we don't even know. No one's ever even bothered to make a count. And so since that time, it's been very exciting as we have seen a resurgence in interest and a call for counts and a call for action in our communities. At the same time, we still have to fight those old stories, that old false line about who women of color are, who Indigenous women are, who women of all communities who are overrepresented in trafficking, overrepresented in domestic violence and other forms of violence. Why is it impacting our communities the way it is? I echo and I completely agree with the ideas that a great deal of the answer to it is going to come as we reconnect with our history, we reconnect with our stories and our songs and the cultures, because I firmly believe that as our cultures come back and as we start remembering them more, we will see the high esteem that women were held in equal part with the men. We will see that we as women have always been valued in ways that we have forgotten, in ways that maybe our communities have forgotten because of these historical stories, these false stories that were circulated about us from the very beginnings, the very underpinnings of this country on this land. And I hope that, I don't just hope, I really believe that we are starting to find each other when we have a sister from Colombia and we have sisters from all over the world connecting with each other and saying we are finding our songs again, we're finding our medicines again, we're finding our strength again, and together we're going to create that shield of protection for ourselves and for each other so that we can truly fight this. And we desperately need our men to continue to stand strong behind us and supporting us in this so that we never fall back into those patterns that divided us, those ugly false story patterns that have divided us in the past.
Por favor, comparte tus ideas y lo que piensa de la cuestión de las mujeres indígenas asesinadas y desaparecidas.
Pienso y siento el dolor cada vez que silencian la vida de una mujer o de un hijo de la madre tierra, silencian la vida.
I feel and I can hear the pain of the sons and of the women who are children and also of the sons of Mother Earth, because when they silence life.
Como he dicho, para nosotros los Kamsás, la tierra es la madre generadora de vida y la mujer es generadora de vida.
Because for our people, like I said before, Mother Earth is what generates lives, and us women are also the ones who generate life.
En nuestras naciones indígenas, en nuestro pueblo Kamsá, es la mujer la que transmite la cultura.
In our people, it's the women the one who transmits the culture, keeps it alive.
Hombres y la raza humana viene del vientre de una mujer.
The man and the human race comes from the womb of a woman.
Nosotros venimos del vientre de la madre tierra.
We came from the womb of Mother Earth.
Y somos hermanos con los árboles, con los ríos, con las montañas, con todo cuanto existe.
And we are related to everything that exists, from the river to the ocean to the trees to the mountains.
Cuando se silencia la voz de un árbol, de un río, de un ave o de un animal, y la voz de una mujer, se silencia la vida, se atenta contra la vida.
The silence in the voices of the mountains and the trees and the ocean and the birds and the animals, and of a woman, you're silencing the voice of life.
Y esto que pasa aquí con las naciones indígenas aquí en América, está pasando en América del Sur.
And that which the women here in North America are experiencing and in the US are experiencing is the same as our sisters in the South are also experiencing in South America.
Los pueblos indígenas hemos sobrevivido lucha tras lucha.
As the indigenous people have been surviving struggle after struggle.
Pero en este momento el mensaje está claro y muy fuerte.
But in this moment the message is clear and very strong.
Silenciar la vida de una mujer es silenciar la vida de Madre Tierra.
The silencing the voice of a woman is the same as silencing Mother Earth.
El mensaje está claro.
The message is clear.
Y todos tenemos que levantar nuestra voz.
And we all have to raise our voices.
Tenemos que juntar las voces.
And unite the voices.
Del norte, del sur, del este, del oeste.
North, south, east, west.
Las voces de todos los colores.
Of all the colors.
Para defender la vida.
To defend life.
Silencian la voz física de una mujer, pero el espíritu de ellas está vivo y su grito es el llamado a todos nosotros.
They can silence the physical voice of a woman, but her spiritual voice is alive, and it's a scream that gathers all of us to defend life.
Para que los pocos que no quieren la vida puedan comprender que la humanidad queremos que la vida siga, no solamente la humana porque es pasajera, sino la vida de la Madre Tierra.
So that the few who don't value life can learn and hear that we all value life, not only of the humanity because we're passengers here, but of Mother Earth.
Tenemos que invocar a este espíritu de vida que es más poderoso que ese espíritu de violencia.
We have to invoke the spirit of life, which is stronger and more powerful than the spirit of violence.
Para que juntando esa fuerza espiritual pueda aplacar ese espíritu de violencia, de atentado contra la vida misma.
So that putting that together, we can struggle against and overcome the spirit of violence and an attack of life itself.
Y nos toca a todos.
And it's a responsibility of all of us.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Everything that was mentioned brought that water up to my eyes, those tears, that healing water moved me. It moved me like that. And all I kept thinking in response was, yes, we need healing. Yes, we need to integrate. Yes, we need to be those voices. And for me, it still circles back around to all the parts of our being, right? Of the neuro, like the neurology, the biology, how does it move, the physical, and then the social, like I'm connecting with you. Like my heart is full now because I know that there's at least 3 sisters out here that feels the same way. So when I go back to my Canoe family, I'm going to talk about you and let them know what you said and say we're not the only ones. There's at least 3 of us out here that's saying that, and here's their ideas. And I also want to add that people don't say this enough. When pregnant people birth their babies, breastfeeding helps heal the physiology of sexual trauma. people don't say that. So if we could just start saying that more, right? And that's part of that resistance, that's part of that false knowing that's passed on is, oh, your birth was really hard. Well, it was really hard because you were raped or assaulted at some point. And that's why it's so hard to deliver babies. And because it is so hard, there's no way you're going to want to breastfeed because maybe you weren't breastfed or, things like that happens. So if we can encourage that, that's at least one part that's practical. That's a practical solution to healing that sexual trauma. It's hard to breastfeed. It's really hard, right? You got a baby on you all the time. Let's be that voice to advocate for that. Let's be that voice to encourage women to drink more water, to take care of themselves. All of your responses brought my water up to my eyes. That emotion invoked, even made my heart stronger. My mental capacity is like, yes, there's support. Yes, thank you. Lifted me up, so I really hope that you feel lifted up in knowing that there's more of us out here like that. And welcome to the territory. I'm not Lummi, but I'm Coast Salishan and Longhouse people. So I really hope that we could all go back our ways safely and continue our own journeys. And I hope that we meet again and we have this kind of protocol on this level, because it's not happening enough. I really value this opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just thank all of you for all your good words and your good empowerment and all of your woman power. Thank you. Thank you very much. I loved all your guys' words, and especially your ending. I'm breastfeeding. I'm a breastfeeding mother.
We're just hoping.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if not, it's okay.
I definitely know the feeling of him having to be on my boob all the time. So, yeah.
It's hard.
It's really hard.
It's super hard.
I've
Bless
never
you.
seen any of my mothers or anybody breastfeed, so
Yeah.
it's the first time for me.
You're making the way.
For you.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh,